yourself as a consumer, a citizen, or perhaps both at the same time? Is it even possible to be both? Let's explore these questions, especially in the context of sustainable consumption. Some argue that we can vote with our wallets, meaning that regulation isn't always necessary because our consumption choices could solve everything. But is it that true? To answer this, let's consider what drives us as consumers and what motivates us as citizens. Let's begin with the consumer. Imagine it's Friday evening and after a long day at work, you rush to the shop to grab what you need for tonight. You are under pressure, trying to get everything quickly and still hoping to get enough sleep before your exam tomorrow. What drives your decision as you shop? Do you stick with your usual choices, moving swiftly from shelf to shelf, or do you get swayed by clever packaging and subtle tricks used by marketers to catch your eye? Then you remember the importance of being aware of what's hidden in the products you buy, the impact on the environment and society, and of course your own health. Among the noise and music designed to distract you in the supermarket, you try to focus on the labels, yet with vague information, tiny print, and the pressure of time, you might give up and just trust your instincts, relying on the color, terms, or look of the product. The marketers may applaud your choice, but the sustainability advocates, perhaps including yourself, might not be so thrilled. Now let's think about your role as a citizen. Imagine a different scenario. It's time to vote. The election campaign is in full swing across Facebook, Twitter, and traditional media. You are sifting through the information on your own, trying to decide which choice is best. But best for whom? Is it just about what's best for you? Or should your political choice also benefit others? After all, for your vote to succeed, others need to agree with you. Does that make you reconsider your goal? As a citizen, you might want the food you find in the supermarket to be healthy. In this case, you likely find plenty of others who share your concern. Or perhaps, inspired by films on sustainable consumption, you imagine a future where you commute by public transport instead of being stuck in traffic jams caused by personal cars. But achieving the vision depends on your fellow citizens also believing in the possibility of efficient public transport. Your choices as a citizen become more meaningful when they are shared by others and when others believe in the same outcomes. This contrasts with your act as a consumer, where your focus is primarily on your own needs. While you might occasionally feel a sense of responsibility toward others when shopping, you likely don't consider how to inspire others to make similar purchases. Another key difference between the roles of a citizen and a consumer is the purpose behind the decision. As a citizen, your decisions are driven by collective and shared goals. What is best for the community or society at large? Whether it's voting or supporting a cause, the focus is often on the public good. In contrast, as a consumer, your decisions are typically guided by personal interest. You act based on what is most beneficial for you, your family, or your household. While you may consider ethical implications from time to time, the focus is on everyday. In contrast, as a consumer, your decisions are typically guided by personal interest. You act based on what is most beneficial for you, your family, or your household. While you may consider ethical implications from time to time, the focus of everyday consumer choices tends to be more individual and private. As a citizen, your decisions often require more thought and a greater investment of time, whether it's voting or participating in a boycott. You carefully consider the broader social or environmental impacts. These decisions are typically deliberate and reflective of collective interests. In contrast, as a consumer, many of your decisions are shaped by habit or convenience. Your choices may be influenced by factors such as price, branding, or familiarity with certain products. Often, these decisions are subject to lock-in patterns of behavior that become routine or even driven by addiction or familiarity. For smaller, everyday purchases, the decision-making process is often quick and reactive. However, when the price of an item is significant, such as when buying a house, car, or planning a vacation, you tend to dedicate more time to evaluating options and considering them correctly. However, when the price of an item is significant, such as when buying a house, car, or planning a vacation, you tend to dedicate more time to evaluating options and considering the long-term impact. The higher the cost, the more time you invest in the decision relative to your income. Another key difference lies in motivation. As a citizen, your actions are often guided by moral principles, values that shape our social life. Even if the term moral feels theoretical, this is where the common ground lies for many decisions. Not everyone may worry about local environmental issues like pollution in a nearby lake, but most people agree on shared principles such as not harming others, promoting social justice, equal opportunities, or ensuring a decent wage. These are the moral values that often drive collective decisions. In contrast, your motivation as a consumer is more centered on self-interest, particularly when resources like time or money are limited. You often seek the best outcome for yourself or your household, focusing on convenience or affordability. Occasionally, you may be influenced by a sense of compassion, perhaps after watching a documentary or hearing a compelling story. But your consumer choices are usually driven by immediate personal needs. Our identities as citizens and consumers are shaped by different influences. As a citizen, your identity is guided by overarching principles like democracy, a sense of community, and shared values such as fairness and social responsibility. You might feel a commitment to your country or a broader community such as the European Union, and resist the idea that development should come at the expense of others. In contrast, your identity as a consumer is influenced by completely different factors, with income playing a central role. As we have discussed, consumption isn't just about fulfilling needs, it's a way to differentiate yourself from others and to define and stabilize your social position. While environmental or ethical concerns may influence your consumer identity, research shows that your primary consumer identity is largely driven by financial considerations. Our wallets play a bigger role in shaping our choices than anything else. What do we mean by the consumer citizen? This concept refers to someone who tries to align their civic values with their consumer choices, whether it's purchasing products with ethical labels, supporting local businesses, or opting for meat-free alternatives. However, making these choices consistently isn't always straightforward. The consumer citizen requires sufficient income, the right socioeconomic status, and access to reliable information and the necessary competences to make informed decisions. As we have discussed before, without these conditions, there is often a gap between the intentions and the ability to follow through on such values. Can our identities as consumer and citizens merge? Yes, but only in certain contexts. Take, for example, buying cosmetics that are not tested on animals. In this case, your consumer identity is expressed through the product you select for your personal use. Simultaneously, your civic identity emerges through your concern for animal rights. By purchasing ethically produced cosmetics, you feel that together with others you are contributing to positive change. However, this only works when you believe others are making similar choices. Your action therefore becomes meaningful in the context of collective responsibility. Do our identities as citizens and consumers always need to align? Not necessarily. For example, you might protest against cheap meat as a citizen, but still buy it as consumer due to financial constraints. This isn't a contradiction, but rather evidence that these identities can exist separately. As a consumer, you have the responsibility of feeding your family within a budget, which often means prioritizing affordability over ethical considerations. You may feel frustrated by this, but limited financial resources restrict your ability to make more ethical choices. Fortunately, as a citizen, you don't need to rely on your wallet to make a difference. With the right will, information, and determination, you can vote for policies that promote sustainable practices such as banning unethical meat production. Over time, this could help to drive down the cost of ethical alternatives, making them more accessible for a wider group of people. Exercising civic rights has become increasingly challenging, particularly since the rise of neoliberal policies in the 1980s, spearheaded by figures like Reagan and Thatcher. These policies significantly reduced the public sphere by cutting public spending, privatizing services, and restricting trade union rights. As a result, the space for civic engagement has been eroded, leaving fewer opportunities for citizens to influence societal values. During this period, the concept of a consumer citizen gained prominence. The idea that we can vote with our wallets. It's important to ask who truly benefits from these policies. Critically speaking, these changes have largely favored high-income earners. Lower taxes and lucrative public-private partnerships disproportionately benefit the wealthy who bear minimal risk. Meanwhile, many citizens are left with fewer opportunities to meaningfully engage in the public sphere, and the responsibility for ethical consumption has been unevenly distributed across society. In conclusion, relying solely on individual choices or public-private partnerships to achieve sustainable consumption presents several challenges. One key issue is the difference in our roles as consumers and citizens with varying motives, goals, and values. By integrating both perspectives, the consumer, who may not always be able to align their purchases with civic goals, and the citizen, whose focus is on the future of the planet, social justice, and shared values, we can approach the challenges of sustainable consumption in a more comprehensive and diversified manner. This integration allows for a balance between individual consumption and collective responsibility, ensuring that the civic perspective is not entirely overshadowed by the consumer mindset. How can you personally balance your roles as both a consumer and a citizen to contribute more effectively to sustainable consumption?